This segment has been sponsored by Pro Bikes Caribe. Pro Bikes Caribe, get yours today. Before we get into today's interview, hear a little bit about the book from the author themselves.
Good day, everyone. I am Miranda Dookran, author of the children's story Bobby and the Beehive. In this fascinating story, Bobby the beekeeper takes children through the process of producing sweet-tasting honey from honeycombs located at his beehive in the gorgeous Cora Valley. Join Bobby and his two kids as they teach everyone the beautiful honey song and read about the wonderful benefits of using honey in everyday life.
Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about their literary works. Today we have with us Miranda Dookran. Miranda is the author of several books, recent one being Tommy the Shark. Miranda, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me.
Oh, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. Before we continue, which Caribbean island do you hail from, Miranda?
I am from the beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right. If it is that someone were to be visiting Trinidad and Tobago for the very first time, what would you recommend that they try?
I would recommend that they try doubles for sure, roti, which is quite tasty, and of course bacon shark at Maracas Beach, and probably pilau.
Ah, okay. So I like how you recommended not one, not two, but 4 items for persons to try should they visit Trinidad and Tobago. So you can have your doubles, your roti when you visit Maracas while you're having your pilau as well. So 4 things to try persons when you're visiting Trinidad and Tobago, courtesy Miranda Dookran. Miranda, one of the books that you'd have written was Tommy the Shark. For persons who are tuning in for the very first time, who do not know anything about your book, can you give us a little bit of insight into it?
Okay, so Tommy the Shark is a children's story written for children between the ages of 3 to 9. In this story, Tommy the Shark ends up on an adventure in the beautiful island of Tobago in a quest to find his mother. While swimming in uncharted territory, he realizes that people are afraid of him, even though the ocean is in fact his home. Tommy wants people to accept him for who he is and recognize that his presence adds value to the marine ecological system. Tommy eventually finds his mother, and they both burst into a lovely marine song upon their reunion.
It does sound like an interesting read when you put it like that, you know.
Okay.
No, traditionally persons don't usually, associate shark, with having a mother, with persons intruding in their space. So I think it would be a pretty interesting read.
Yes, of course it would be, because I think a lot of us, we don't quite understand that there is marine life, and just as how we need freedom to roam our land, our territories, they need the freedom to roam the sea, which belongs to them.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point of view. Imagine, you're coming home into your house, and someone is feeling frightened that you're coming home to your very own house. You're like, but it's my house. I mean, why are you feeling uneasy and frightened that I'm in
Exactly.
my own house?
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's get a bit more into the interview. Um, Seeing that you're from Trinidad and Tobago and from the Caribbean, as a wider area, would you say that that would have affected your writing in any form or fashion?
Of course, all my books, and you from Breeze of Hope, which was my first poetry collection, to Tommy the Shark, you would see me talking about things that actually reflect the Caribbean. Let's say Breeze of Hope, for instance. Some of the issues that affect women and men, things like love, loss. What we find happening in a lot of Caribbean homes, the men seem to think that they should be dominant and only their voice should be heard. And this is me actually addressing some of the issues that women encounter in, not just in our country, but throughout the wider Caribbean region. Bobby and the Beehive, which is my second book, my children's story book, is actually a dedication to my dad, who actually ran a part-time business selling honey. And this is me telling the story of the preparation from taking the honey from the beehive and then producing it in a bottle to be sold, right? And again, I'm reflecting some of the things, the beehive being located in the Cora Valley,
Hmm.
right? His
Hmm.
appearance in the Cora Valley. So, and this book is very reflective of the flora and fauna of Trinidad and Tobago. Then I saw the need for a Bobby and the Beehive color and activity book because I realized that there aren't many bee books to teach children about the importance of bees. And this is where I'm encouraging children to learn more about the bees and to have fun, right? Learning. And then Tommy the Shark, the whole concept of Tommy the Shark was nowhere on the horizon. This book came to light because of the fact of the incident that happened a couple of months ago where an English tourist was bitten by a shark.
Oh.
So this was the inspiration for this book, to be honest. I remembered following this story and being a bit perturbed by the
Mhm.
fact that a lot of sharks were killed as a result of this unfortunate incident.
Hmm.
And this is me putting myself in the mind and soul of the shark and saying, hey, before we run to just kill all these sharks, why don't we understand, do some research and understand, try to understand why did the shark come all the way to the shore, close to the shore, in Turtle Beach, to actually bite this man? And when you do the research, I did the research, I found out that it was actually nesting season in Tobago, and the number of eggs were laid at that beach. And because of the smell of blood, that is why the shark came very close to shore,
Ah.
right? And in this story, I actually highlight some of the lovely beaches like Pigeon Point, Buckle Reef, Store Bay, all the colorful sea creatures, stingrays, the importance of the reef, and of course, the importance of the shark to the marine ecological system. So all my books reflect a Caribbean theme.
I mean, that's a lot, Miranda. I
I know.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm thinking that one of the first off, Tommy Lee Shark, I'm thinking that, it's just a regular children's book. But then you go into the detail, as to the origins of the book and, the research that you did, how you follow this story. And I don't think that's a lot of thing. I don't think that's something that a lot of people did. And here it is, you went on to give even further insight as to, why the shark appeared close to the shore. And one of the things that was interesting that you mentioned as well is, the public's reaction. A shark, attacks someone, let's kill all the sharks. But you,
Exactly.
yeah, and you go on to say, you can't do that because the sharks are there for a reason. They are part of the system. It's a balance. And when it is that you
Yes.
affect one of the items that are part of the balance, the entire ecosystem, is out of balance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so
And
mm-hmm.
again, and I think, if more research was done as to why this incident actually happened, that, killing of the sharks, and think about it. All those sharks were killed. Did they actually consume it? No, the answer was no. Some of them were actually dumped. And you are there killing these sharks and not even sure that was the actual shark that bit the man, which was so, I mean, it's so sad and it's kind of foolish too when you think about it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the I, I was going to say it's unfortunate for the Sharks and to an extent it kind of is unfortunate, but at the same time I'm thinking of, the tourist who got bitten by the shark as well. So I'm thinking he might not share the same sentiment.
Yes,
But
true, true,
yeah,
true.
yeah. But yeah, that is that your books, they don't seem to be just, they seem to be based in a lot of research, even the book on beehives, etc. That I was unaware of, that there's a valley where, rearing of beehives take place, and how it is that you had a personal connection in that your father used to rear bees as well. That is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing. That actually, every time I see Bobby in a beehive, I just smile because it's really it's a story that came from the heart. This is me telling a true story basically and putting it in a book.
Yeah, yeah. Um, as a writer from the Caribbean, I mean, do you think that, that this perspective kind of gives you an advantage as opposed to other persons? Or even if it's not about the perspective, just being a Caribbean writer in general, do you think it comes with any advantages?
The advantages is that I'm actually living the experiences. My work, part of my, I'm also a full-time counselor, so I help a lot of clients with problems, clients who experience deep-seated trauma, and it's coming from a place of a lot of, how should I say, how should I describe it? Soul-searching reflections. When I write, I'm actually reflecting on my thoughts, the things I'm exposed to, the things that people are afraid to talk about, especially in Breeze of Hope. You find my language, you find, the things that I talk about, women being abused and that sort of thing. These are things that long ago you wouldn't hear about it. It's now a lot of women are speaking about it because of the whole fact of, there's an increase in gender-based violence and of course violence on the whole. And here am I addressing topics that are heavy, but at the same time, adding my, how should I say, flair to it, adding my knowledge, adding my experience to what I'm actually speaking about in these books.
No, and I really think that you bring something different to the table there. Something that how should I put this, man? It's meaningful content.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And for me, luckily for me, a lot of my, especially in Breeds of Hope, it resonates with a lot of my clients. Just last week, I was speaking to a woman from Guyana, and she sent me this lovely review of the book, and she said, Miranda, you touched on so many things. I feel as though you walked in my shoes. When I read that book from beginning to end, she said, Miranda, it's really, really a wonderful book, and you know, reflecting on love and loss, and then rebuilding again, talking about the importance of having God in your life to help you through difficult times. And I think looking at the state of the country and even the world, we really need to have some kind of, how should I say, support system, and we need to rely on God in our most difficult moments.
In terms of a writing process, can you give us a little bit of insight? Because like I've spoken with persons before, and some of them it's different for everyone. Some persons it's a paragraph a day, some persons it's a sentence a day, some persons it's like, they get up at 12, at night and they just, when they get the incentive, they just go. Or other persons when they're on the bus, they have a notebook and they just, write as they go along. What's your process for writing?
Well, first of all, I part of my work, I use poetry as a medium of therapy for clients. So usually once a week we would meet and I would have a group session and we discuss pertinent issues, and I ask clients to actually share some of their thoughts and feelings. And from these sessions, you would find that I would write as well. And I mean, I wouldn't publish something that I just wrote. I mean, I will go back and revisit it and, add a few things to it. And then I just recently started a writers group in the Tunapuna Library. We meet every second Saturday of the month. It's called Writers Collab. And there, again, I encourage other writers to come out and share their work. And I as well write my pieces. But again, I wouldn't say I have a formula per se, because Breeze of Hope was years of work, years of reflection. Whereas Tommy the Shark was a one night, I should say a one night write up. After hearing that story, I just sat down and I wrote that in the middle of the night and came to the end of the story. And then when I finished, I was like, let me find a good illustrator to bring this idea to life. So I wouldn't say I have a formula per se. Again, writing come from a lot of these sessions that I do with clients and other people in the Tunapuna Library, as well as what might be the trending topic of the day, right? So people have been asking for a series, Bobby and the Beehive, but you know something, I've been working on that second storybook, and for some reason, I haven't gotten it perfect yet. And I would not publish until I think it's perfect. That's just me.
No, it's really encouraging to hear the feedback that you have received from the persons. First off, with Breeze of Hope, how does that person wrote you to give you feedback? I mean, for any author, the amount of time and effort that you put into putting a work together, getting feedback from persons, it is priceless. And
Yes,
coupled
of course.
and coupled with that, The fact that persons are asking for more, for sequels for the books that you'd have written, I mean, if that isn't an indicator to you that you've gotten the recipe right, then I don't know what is. No, what I also like about you is that you also indicated that you're not confined to just writing. You've actually gone ahead and actually set up a group for budding writers. And I think that is very, I'm trying to think of a word which indicates that, you're concerned about not just, getting your books out there, but for the craft on the whole. So that other persons can, get into it and be even better at it. I'll think of the word maybe later in the
Exactly.
interview, but I have to respect that. So you're not just an author, but you're here and you're an author helping other authors as well.
True, true. And also using writing to help clients through their difficult times as well.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. I mean, how do you feel about the current state of Caribbean literature?
At this point in time, I would say we are bursting with so much talent. I am seeing some really incredible books. Gone are the days when you go to a bookstore and you're just seeing all these books from foreign writers. There are so many lovely Caribbean books, especially children's books. I'm impressed with the artwork. I'm impressed with the stories. We are rich in storytelling, and I mean, it's just bursting. I mean, so many lovely stories are just bursting on the horizon. I'm actually proud, of so many writers that I've encountered the last couple of years who are really doing some excellent work.
Okay, that is encouraging to hear. Well, seeing that you would have started this writing group, and again, with your perspective on Caribbean literature, would you say, can you identify any hindrances to Caribbean writers at this point in time?
One of the biggest hindrance I would think is cost. For people think it's cheap. I mean, sometimes you hear people say so much for that book, but they don't realize the cost that entails to actually get that book together. Because after you do your manuscript, you have to find a good editor. If it's a children's book, you have to hire an illustrator, right? Then you have to find money to pay a printer to get these books printed, right? Of course, the more books you print, the cheaper the cost. But if you don't have a great amount of money, you could only print let's say a small amount at a time. So when people see the book on a shelf and they say, hey, oh, that's so expensive. How that more expensive than the foreign book? Well, it's because of the rate, because of what we have to pay here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think, if it is that we could have probably just kind of bring the prices down a little bit, would be more cost effective for a lot of writers. And sometimes I tell people, I wish I could give you this book for $20, to be honest, right? Because, you're just happy to share your work. And sometimes you know, because you see somebody who really, really enjoy your work, you might just say, here's a free book. But what I'm saying is that one of the hindrances really is cost to produce a book because there's so much involved in putting the finished product, right? And if you are a writer who value your work, who wants to make sure that your work appeals to a wide audience, you want to make sure that there are no grammatical errors. You want to make sure that the story or the illustrator is reflecting what is it you envision for this particular book that you're working on. So again, it's a lot of time as well, and it's basically the cost.
Okay, okay. Your book, is it self-published or did you go through the traditional publishing process?
It's all self-published. Not a the thing is traditional. It would be great to have a publishing house publish your work, but the length of time you'll have to wait to go through that whole process. I said, look, you know what? I am prepared to invest my own money in publishing my books because I have these ideas. I am just passionate about writing. And yeah, so fortunate for me, I'm able to use my own funds and produce my books. And I mean, they're selling. So, that's encouraging as well.
Yeah, it is. It is. In terms of the self-publishing process, well, it's sort of the question is twofold, but let me ask the question and we'll see how we can how best you can answer it. In this writing group that you would have formed, do you touch on aspects of self-publishing, or that's the first thing? And the second question that I have is in terms of self-publishing, did you learn about it yourself, or is it that you had to go and did you have to go and do your own research, or did you have someone to teach you the process?
Okay. So I always loved writing. From the age of 8, I used to jot down little verses of poetry, but it was just something I would do for fun. Fast track to when I was in my 20s, I wrote a Valentine's story, won first prize in a radio competition on Hot 93. And I told myself, I have something here. But again, I wasn't sure how to actually put a book together. But I had all these pieces just stored away on my flash drive. And lo and behold, in 2018, I met this he's a priest now. He's from Uganda, and he self-published a lot of books. And I told him, I said, hey, I always love writing. I have so much work, and I wasn't sure how to go about the process. And he said, well, Miranda, what you're waiting on? I could put you onto my graphic designer in Uganda, and the rest was history. He guided me. And I remember being a bit apprehensive to publish after 6 months. And he was saying to me, Miranda, if you don't publish this book now, when will you publish this book? You can't wait for the perfect moment. He
Six
said the
months,
book is ready. Yeah, I was just, there's a little, you see, as a self-published author, I'm speaking from my own experience. I was a bit, how should I say? I wasn't sure
apprehensive.
how the public was, yes, I wasn't sure how the public was going to react to me, and then because remember you're putting yourself out there, right? It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
traditional, publishing house that is pushing your work. It is actually you putting yourself out there. And I remember being a bit scared and being a bit, hey, I'm not sure how people are going to receive this. And I was amazed. At the support. I was part of Poetry and Pulse at the time,
Mm-hmm,
and I was
mm-hmm.
amazed at the support. And you know people really showed appreciation for my work, and every single review that I get, I'm so appreciative of it, because like I tell people, it puts a smile on your face when you could hear that your book helped somebody, that your book motivated someone, that your book made someone smile today. Those are the things I like to hear. It's not so much when people ask me if I write for money. No, I don't write for money. To be honest, I write because I love writing. I'm passionate about it. And, so again, just, putting your work out there and, getting the appreciation is what keeps me going.
That is encouraging to hear, Miranda.
Okay, thank you.
Um, Seeing that you're part of this writing group and that you seem to have like a very spirited perspective on Caribbean authors, what advice would you give for aspiring Caribbean writers who are listening to this program right now?
I would say read as much as possible. The more you read, the more you know. If something, a particular topic appeals to you, write. The first time that you write, you may find that, hey, it's not really sounding how I want this to come out. Revisit it again and again and again. It's never the first draft that you publish. It's several drafts. And keep writing. The more you write, the more you would, how should I say, master your craft, right? And I always encourage young people to write, because, especially for my clients as well, I encourage them to write because journaling can be very therapeutic. Writing for me is also very therapeutic, because listening to so many problems every day can really put a damp on things, and sometimes can even make you feel a little down sometimes when you hear some of the things that people go through. So writing for me as well is also very therapeutic. So more so now, with the difficult times that we're living in, read. There are so many public libraries. Go and sit in the library and read. If it's just 1 hour a week, make that commitment to go and read, right? There are so many books. And of course, you could join a writers group. Not just my group, there are other writing groups that people can join. And of course, when you join a writers group, there is a wealth of knowledge that you can capture from other writers.
No, one of the things that I observed is that you had mentioned that you started a writers group. But if I was listening correctly, I think you had also mentioned another group that you were a member of, Poetry and Prose, I think.
Yes, Poetry and Prose Open Mic. They were the first group that I joined before I published Trees of Hope. And well, now I've started my own group in the Tunapuna Library, which is Writers for Lab.
No, I think it's just really interesting because I mean, it shows a degree of growth on your side because here it is, you're part of a group, initially, and then you grow to the point where what would have happened in your experiences with your first group, you'd have used it to shape your growth to try and guide other writers as well in a in a similar manner to which you were guided. So it shows a degree of growth on your end. So I have to commend you on that.
Thank you so much.
Seeing that you've recently written Tommy the Shark, what do you have any ideas for any other books?
Well, like I said, I was actually working on Tommy was not supposed to be. I was actually working on a second book to Bobby and the Beehive. And Tommy just took precedence. Now I'm going to have my official launch on September 14th. So right now all my energy is directed to having this book launch at the Tunapuna Library. So after that, after I have the book launch, then I can actually think about, publishing the sequel to Bobby and the Beehive.
No, I mean, sorry to segue, but when it is that you said that Tommy came from nowhere, I mean, the thought came to my mind about, parents who have like a child, they don't plan to, but the child comes along and you're like, we didn't
Yes,
plan to have the child, but we're so excited that the child is on the way. So I'm thinking when you said that, it just came to mind about Tommy. Tommy is that child. Tommy is that child.
yes. Correct, correct. And what I usually do, the two children books that I've written, I always get feedback from my niece. She's 9, and she provides me some really great feedback in terms of what will appeal to kids. Because so it's my writing also reflects the lens of a child as well. Because I don't just write and say, okay, I'm going to publish this. I seek, I seek feedback from other people, especially her, because she's very bright and she things that I don't think about, she thinks about. And she'll
Hmm.
say, hey, you know, so I'm grateful for her as well because these books actually reflect, the things that will appeal to kids.
Yes, yes. Uh, I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation with you so far about the ideas that you've had for books, the books that you've published so far, the growth that has taken place with you in terms of you joining a writers group to you forming a writers group and actually encouraging and guiding other writers as well. And you had mentioned your plans for the future for you have an upcoming book sequel to Bobby and the Beehive that's supposed to take place, which is supposed to be launched in September. Um, Seeing that you have like so many items that we have to look forward to coming close to the end of the year. Where Caribbean literature is concerned, do you have any, I don't know, do you have any goals for things that you would like to see happening where Caribbean literature is concerned?
Yes. One of them is okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I visited Dominica. I was invited by my writing friend. He used to show a lot of support. He used to live in Trinidad, but he has moved back to Dominica. And he used to attend my writing group in Tunapuna. So he invited me to come across, and I went there. There was actually an afternoon setup where I went and performed my writing at with other local writers in Dominica. Shared my work. People came, bought my books, and I wish we could have more of that. That sort of connection. That sort of it's not just you're staying in Trinidad and Tobago when you're trying to sell your books here. What if we could put something together where writers could travel the islands and share their work? Because I remember feeling so, it was such a proud moment for me to be able to go and share my work in Dominica and fellow Dominicans coming up and saying, hey, this is you've written some good work. I remember some woman coming up and saying, Bobby and the Beehive, who printed this book? I mean, the illustrations are lovely, and so I wish we could have more of that connection with
Hmm.
other Caribbean, writers, and where we could have a space and where we could visit probably once a year. I don't know. I'm just saying. And we go and visit another island and we share our work, and they come here, and it's a kind of, you know, I wish we would have more of that.
Okay. I mean, I hear you. I know that being exposed to more and more Caribbean writers, I started to attend more and more conferences. There was Boca Lit Fest that I attended, and it was great because I
Right.
I had met you and a couple
Yes.
of other authors like Hazel and Lynch, Amina, and a couple of others as well.
Right.
And it was just great to just interact with everyone. The energy was fantastic. Um, so
Yes.
yeah,
It was.
more writers conferences or spaces where writers can, educate, can share, and guide each other in terms of their writing skills, in terms of the technology that they have at their disposal now to get their books out and etc.
Yes, of course, of course. And like I said, we could have more experiences where We actually, go out once a year, visit another island, share work, sell books. I mean, all that is part of the whole creative writing process.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our interview at this time. Miranda, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed. It was very insightful and encouraging to have this conversation with you. Okay, well, looking out for it, Miranda, and again, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it so much.
Okay. You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.